The massive ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling mountains, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly sheen that seemed to bend light itself. Colonel Park Jun stood on the observation deck of the Seoul Defense Command, watching. As the alien vessels took position above every major city on the planet, "Sir, we're receiving a transmission on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Kim Na, her voice tight with barely controlled fear. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a creature that defied easy description. Its elongated head bore 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, while its pale blue skin rippled with bioluminescent patterns. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. I am High Negotiator Velthok. Of the Galactic Hegemony, your species has achieved basic space travel, marking your entry into our sphere of influence. You have 2 choices. Submit to our benevolent guidance as a tributary world, or face the consequences of defiance." Dr. Li Min, Earth's lead xenobiologist, stepped forward from the crowd of officials. "What exactly does tribute mean?" asked Velthek. 4 eyes focused on her with cold calculation. "Your world will provide 40% of all natural resources. Your people will offer 1 million workers each year. Our genetic samples will be collected for our research. In return, we grant you protection and limited access to our technology." The room fell silent. Park Jun felt his blood turn cold. Behind him, he could hear the quiet breathing of dozens of Earth's top officials. Everyone understood what this meant. Slavery, complete submission, and if we refuse, asked General Kim Dae, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. The alien's expression did not change. "Then your species will be removed from this world. Your planet will be harvested without the burden of managing your population. Choice is simple." Park Jun stepped forward. "How long do we have to decide?" 72 hours. I suggest you choose wisely. The hegemony has brought order to over 300 worlds. None have successfully resisted us. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Submission is your only path to survival." The transmission ended, leaving the room in crushing silence. Park Jun looked around at the faces of Earth's leaders. Some showed panic, others anger, but most showed the terrible weight of hopelessness. "We need to contact all world leaders immediately," said Dr. Li Min. "Every nation needs to understand what we're facing." Over the next 3 days, Earth's governments met in emergency sessions. The debates were fierce but pointless. Military leaders presented their best weapons, their strongest defenses, their most advanced technology. All of it was useless against ships that could travel between stars. The aliens demonstrated their power on the second day. When the European Union hesitated to agree to the terms, a single beam of energy from one of their ships vaporized a mountain in the Swiss Alps. The message was clear. They could destroy anything on Earth without effort. Park Jun watched the news reports with growing despair, as the mountain had simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone. If they could do that to solid rock, what could they do to cities full of people? "The vote is tomorrow," said Kim Na, approaching him with a tablet full of reports. "Every nation is leaning toward acceptance. Can you blame them?" Park Jun replied. "We're talking about the survival of our species." But even as he spoke, something inside him rebelled against the idea. Humanity had fought for freedom throughout history. They had resisted tyrants and oppressors, even when the odds seemed impossible. Now they were being asked to surrender everything. Without a fight, Dr. Li Min appeared beside them. "I've been studying their transmission. Their technology is incredible, but there's something strange about their behavior." "What do you mean?" Park Jun asked. "They're too perfect, too organized. Their speech patterns, their ship formations, even their ultimatum follows exact mathematical principles. It's like they've removed all chaos from their society." "That sounds like an advantage," Kim Na said. "Maybe, or maybe it's a weakness. Chaos can be a strength if you know how to use it." The final day arrived. World leaders gathered in emergency session, their faces grim with the weight of the decision. The vote was unanimous. Earth would submit to the hegemony's demands. Park Jun stood again, on the observation deck, watching as the alien ships repositioned themselves. Soon, they would begin their harvest of Earth's resources. Soon, humanity would learn what it meant to be slaves to a galactic empire. But as he watched, Park Jun made a private decision. Surrender might be the official policy, but some humans would never stop fighting. The aliens had won the first battle, but the war for Earth's freedom was just beginning. The hegemony had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that humans would stay defeated. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not in their technology or their weapons, but in their refusal to give up hope. Even in the darkest hour, some humans would continue to resist. And sometimes, that was enough. 3. Years had passed since the hegemony's arrival, and Earth had become a shadow of its former self. The mining platforms that now dotted the Pacific Ocean extracted precious metals at an unprecedented rate, while vast bioharvesting facilities processed Earth's unique flora and fauna for alien consumption. Captain Osun crouched in the ruins of what had once been a thriving suburb outside Busan, now reduced to a labor camp for voluntary workers. His resistance cell had been monitoring the alien patrol patterns for weeks, noting their rigid adherence to schedules and protocols. "They're predictable," whispered Sergeant Choi Young beside him. "Every patrol follows the exact same route, down to the second." Oh-sung nodded, his eyes fixed on the hovering alien craft. The hegemony's foot soldiers were a curious sight. Tall, insectoid beings with cybernetic implants that seemed to replace much of their original biology. They moved with mechanical precision, but something about their behavior struck him as odd. Meanwhile, in an underground laboratory hidden beneath the ruins of Seoul University, Dr. Lee Min worked feverishly on samples of alien technology. Her analysis had revealed something remarkable. The hegemony's advanced systems were incredibly sophisticated but followed rigid, predictable patterns. Their artificial intelligence was powerful, but lacked the chaotic creativity that characterized human thought. The world above ground had changed beyond recognition. Where once stood busy cities, now stretched endless work camps. Humans wore identification collars that tracked their every movement. Children were separated from parents and placed in education centers, where they learned to serve their alien masters. Osun remembered the day his daughter had been taken. She was only 8 years old, but the aliens said she showed promise. For their biological research programs, he had not seen her since. The memory fueled his hatred and kept him fighting when others gave up hope. "The supply convoy arrives at 1400 hours, reported Private Kim So from her position near the camp entrance. "Same route as always, same guards, same weapons." Oh-sung smiled grimly. The aliens were efficient, but their efficiency was becoming their weakness. They never changed their patterns, never adapted their methods. They treated Earth like a giant factory. And factories ran on schedules. In her hidden laboratory, Dr. Lee Min made another breakthrough. She had been studying the alien guards' behavior for months, and she finally understood what made them so strange. They were not just using technology, they had become part of it. Their brains were connected to a central network that controlled their thoughts and actions. "They have no free will," she whispered to her assistant, researcher Park Hai. "They have traded their ability to think independently for perfect coordination. They cannot improvise or adapt because their minds are not their own." This discovery changed everything. The resistance had been fighting the aliens as if they were just another army, but they were not. They were more like a computer program made of flesh and metal. And like any program, they could be hacked. Oh-sung's team struck at the supply convoy 3 days later. They used crude weapons made from scavenged materials, but they struck at the exact moment when the guards were changing shifts. The aliens. Perfect timing became their downfall. For exactly 30 seconds, there was a gap in their coverage that never changed. The attack was over in minutes. The resistance took the supplies and disappeared into the ruins before the alien reinforcements arrived. But more importantly, they had proven something. The aliens could be beaten. Word spread quickly through the underground networks. Cells began studying the aliens' patterns, looking for weaknesses in their perfect system. They discovered that the aliens' ships refueled at the same times every day. Their communication systems used the same frequencies. Their patrols never varied their routes. Dr. Li Min worked day and night to understand the alien technology they had captured. She found something amazing. The aliens' computers were incredibly powerful, but they could only process information. In specific ways, they had no creativity, no ability to think outside their programming. They see us as simple animals, she explained to Oh Sung during one of their secret meetings. They think we cannot plan or organize because we are too chaotic, but our chaos is our strength. We can do things they cannot predict because we do not follow their rules. The resistance began to grow. Humans who had accepted defeat started to hope again. They learned to hide their activities behind the appearance of compliance. They worked in the labor camps during the day and planned rebellion at night. Oh Sung's network expanded across the country. They made contact with similar groups in other nations. Slowly, carefully, they began to coordinate their efforts. The aliens' own communication systems became the tool of their resistance. As humans learned to send hidden messages through the networks, the aliens monitored. The hegemony's leaders remained confident. Their reports showed that Earth was producing the required resources on schedule, the human population was under control. There were minor incidents of sabotage, but nothing that threatened their operations. High Negotiator Veltak reviewed the quarterly reports with satisfaction. The humans were learning their place in the galactic order. Soon they would be ready for the final phase of the harvest plan, but in the ruins of Earth's cities, hidden laboratories, and secret meeting places, humanity was learning something else. They were learning that their greatest weakness could become their greatest strength. The aliens had made them slaves, but they had also made them angry. And angry humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The resistance had grown, from a handful of survivors to a coordinated network spanning the globe. Oh Sung now commanded a network of cells that stretched from the ruins of Seoul to the underground tunnels beneath New York. They had learned to think like their oppressors, methodical, patient, and utterly ruthless. The key is their overconfidence. Li Min explained to the gathered cell leaders in their hidden command center. They've never encountered a species that could match their technology while retaining biological unpredictability. She gestured to a holographic display showing the aliens' neural patterns. The hegemony's member species have been genetically modified over millennia. They've eliminated aggression, independent thought, and creative problem-solving in favor of efficiency and compliance. They literally cannot comprehend the concept of organized deception. Captain Wang Ho, leader of the Pacific Resistance, leaned forward. So they expect us to be predictable? Exactly, Li Min replied. They see our chaos as primitive weakness, not understanding that it's our greatest strength. While they follow rigid protocols, we can adapt, improvise, and think 3 steps ahead. The meeting was taking place in what had once been a subway station beneath Tokyo. The resistance had connected the underground networks of major cities, creating a hidden world beneath the alien occupation. Here humans moved freely, sharing information and resources while their captors remained oblivious above. Oh Sung studied the faces around him. These were not the same broken people who had watched their world surrender 3 years ago. It had become something new, something harder. The aliens had tried to make them into compliant workers, but instead they had created a generation of guerrilla fighters. Show them the weapons, Oh Soon said to his technical officer. Lieutenant Park Jun. Park Jun activated another display. It showed crude-looking devices that seemed to be made from scavenged materials. But Oh Sung knew better. These weapons combined human creativity with alien technology in ways the hegemony could never imagine. We have learned to make their own tools work against them, Park Jin explained. Their energy weapons are powerful, but inflexible. Our hybrid weapons are weaker, but unpredictable. Their computers cannot calculate our weapon patterns because we build randomness into every device. The Resistance had spent 2 years learning to copy alien technology, but they had not simply copied it. They had improved it by adding the one thing the aliens had removed from their own systems: chaos. Their weapons worked differently every time they were used. Their communication systems changed frequencies randomly. Their vehicles moved in patterns that no computer could predict. Wang Ho nodded approvingly. My teams have been testing these weapons against alien patrols. The aliens. Defensive systems cannot adapt quickly enough to our random attacks. They expect us to use the same tactics repeatedly, but we never do. Dr. Li Min had made another important discovery. The aliens' greatest strength was also their greatest weakness. Their perfect coordination made them incredibly efficient, but it also made them vulnerable to a single point of failure. Their command structure is like a pyramid, she explained. Orders flow from the top down through a rigid hierarchy. If we can disrupt their communication at key points, entire sections of their army will become paralyzed.
Oh.
The Resistance had been mapping the alien command network for months. It identified the key communication nodes, the backup systems, and the emergency protocols. More importantly, they had learned to exploit the aliens' predictable response patterns. When we attack a mining facility, they always respond with exactly 3 patrol units, reported Captain Li Su from the Australian Resistance. They arrive. At the same time, use the same approach routes, and deploy in the same formation. Can predict their response better than they can predict our attacks. Oh Sung looked at the tactical displays showing resistance activities across the globe. To the aliens, it would look like random acts of sabotage by desperate humans. But every attack was carefully planned and coordinated. They were not just fighting the aliens, they were studying them, learning their weaknesses, and preparing for something much larger. The aliens think we are fighting many small battles, Oh Sung said. They do not understand that we are fighting one big war. Every attack teaches us something new about their systems. Every captured piece of technology makes us stronger. The Resistance had learned to think in ways that confused the aliens. They spread false information to test alien responses. They staged fake attacks to study defensive patterns. They allowed some operations to fail deliberately to maintain the illusion of primitive incompetence. They see what they expect to see, Li Min said. A defeated species making desperate attempts at rebellion. They cannot imagine that we are capable of long-term planning and sophisticated deception. The most important part of the Resistance strategy was patience. It learned to wait, to plan, to prepare. The aliens' own rigid schedules had taught them the value of precise timing. But unlike the aliens, they could change their plans at any moment. We are ready to move to the next phase, Oh Sung announced. The aliens think they have broken us, but we have only been learning from them. Soon, they will discover that humans are much better students than they expected. The cell leaders began to disperse, each returning to their regions with new orders and new hope. The quiet revolution was nearly complete. The aliens had taught humanity to be organized, patient, and ruthless. Soon, they would learn the consequences of their lessons. In the darkness beneath Earth's cities, humanity was preparing to strike back. And when they did, the aliens would discover that their greatest mistake was not in conquering Earth, but in leaving humans alive to learn from their defeat. High Negotiator Velthak stood before the assembled hegemony leadership, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. The massive holographic display behind him showed Earth in exquisite detail, marked with extraction sites and resource calculations. The final harvest phase will commence in 72 hours, he announced. Earth's biological diversity will be completely cataloged and preserved, while the surviving human population will be relocated to mining colonies in the Zarian system. The other hegemony leaders, representatives of 12 different species, nodded in approval. Commander Zekman of the military caste stepped forward. What of the resistance activities? Our reports indicate increasing sabotage. Velthak's expression remained dismissive. Primitive death throes. These creatures lack the sophistication to mount any meaningful opposition. Their attacks are sporadic, uncoordinated, and ultimately ineffective. We have already accounted for acceptable losses in our calculations. What Velthak didn't know was that every word of his briefing was being transmitted to the human resistance through carefully planted listening devices. In hidden bunkers across the globe, resistance leaders watched the alien commander seal his species' fate with his own arrogance. Oh Sung smiled grimly as he watched the transmission in his command center beneath the ruins of Seoul. Around him, Dozens of resistance fighters monitored communication channels, weapon systems, and troop movements. The aliens thought they were watching a dying species make its final, desperate struggles. They had no idea they were about to walk into the most sophisticated trap in human history. Final harvest means total extermination, Dr. Lehman said quietly. They never intended to keep us alive. The labor colonies are just processing centers before elimination. The revelation sent a chill through the resistance leadership, but it also removed any doubt about what they had to do. The aliens had shown their true intentions. There would be no mercy, no negotiations, no peaceful coexistence. This was a war for the survival of humanity itself. All units report ready, announced Captain Wang Ho through the encrypted communication network. Pacific operations are in position. Australian teams have confirmed their targets. European cells are standing by. Oh-Sung looked at the tactical display showing resistance positions across the globe. 3 years of preparation had led to this moment. The aliens thought they were facing scattered groups of desperate survivors. They had no idea they were about to confront a coordinated military operation that spanned the entire planet. The beautiful thing about their arrogance, Li Min said, is that they have given us complete access to their systems. They never bothered to secure their communications because they never imagined we could understand them. The resistance had indeed learned to understand the aliens better than the aliens understood themselves. Human technicians had infiltrated alien computer networks, planted listening devices in command centers, and even placed their own people in positions where they could monitor alien activities. Commander, Sketman was reviewing troop deployments when his aide reported an anomaly. Sir, we are detecting unusual patterns in the human settlements. There appears to be increased movement in several regions. Probably panicked responses to the harvest announcement, Zekman replied without looking up from his reports. These creatures have primitive emotional reactions to stress. 'Tis to be expected. But the movements were not panic. They were the final positioning of resistance forces who had spent months infiltrating alien installations. Human fighters dressed as workers had gained access to power plants, communication centers, and weapon storage facilities. Others had mapped every patrol route, every security protocol, and every weakness in the alien defensive network. Oh-Sung received the final confirmation from his cell leaders. Beijing team in position. Moscow team ready. London team standing by. All targets identified and confirmed. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. The aliens had built their entire occupation around the assumption that humans were incapable of coordinated action. They had designed their security systems to prevent individual acts of sabotage, not to stop a simultaneous global assault. Their greatest strength is their coordination, Li Min had explained during the planning phase. But it is also their greatest weakness. They cannot function independently. If we cut their communication links at the right moment, their entire command structure will collapse. The resistance had identified the exact sequence needed to bring down the alien network. First, they would eliminate the main communication hubs. Then they would attack the backup systems. Finally, they would target the command centers while the aliens were still trying to understand what was happening. Remember, Oh-Sung said to his team, the aliens think in terms of efficiency and predictability. They will try to restore their systems using standard protocols. We will be waiting for them at every step. The countdown began. In hidden positions around the world, resistance fighters checked their hybrid weapons one final time. These weapons combined human creativity with alien technology in ways the hegemony had never encountered. Each weapon was unique, each attack unpredictable, each assault designed to confuse and overwhelm alien defensive systems. 60 seconds to execution, announced the countdown controller. Oh-Sung thought about his daughter, taken by the aliens. 3 years ago, he thought about the millions of humans who had died in the labor camps. He thought about the billions more who would die if the final harvest succeeded. 10 seconds. The aliens had offered peace, but they had planned genocide. Now humanity would show them what humans offered in return. Execute. Across the globe, the resistance struck with the fury of a species fighting for its very survival. The trap was sprung, and the aliens were about to learn that their most dangerous mistake was underestimating the creativity and determination of an angry humanity The attack began at exactly 14:32 GMT, striking simultaneously across 17 time zones. To the hegemony, it appeared as though the entire planet had spontaneously erupted in coordinated violence. Osung led the assault on the Seoul Command Center, his forces moving with the precision of a military operation and the ferocity of a personal vendetta. The hybrid weapons Li Min had developed tore through alien defenses like they were paper, their unpredictable energy signatures overloading the hegemony's sophisticated sensors. "Target their command nodes first," he ordered, watching as his team systematically dismantled the alien infrastructure. "They can't adapt if they can't communicate." Above the planet, the hegemony's harvest fleet found itself under attack from modified human spacecraft that moved in ways their computers couldn't predict. The aliens' rigid tactical doctrine, so effective against other organized militaries, crumbled when faced with humanity's chaotic creativity. Commander Zekman stared at his tactical display in disbelief. How are they doing this? Their technology is centuries behind ours? The answer was simple, but devastating. The humans were not using pure alien technology. They had combined it with their own biological systems, creating weapons that changed behavior with each use. The alien computers designed to analyze and counter predictable patterns could not process the random nature of human innovation. Osung's team burst through the command center's main entrance, their weapons firing in sequences that no algorithm could predict. The alien guards moved to intercept them using standard defensive protocols. But the humans were not following any standard patterns. They attacked from unexpected angles, used unconventional tactics, and adapted their approach in real time. "Communications are down," reported Sergeant Choi Young as he destroyed another alien console. "Their entire network is collapsing." Around the world, the same scene was playing out in dozens of locations. Human fighters emerged from hiding places the aliens had never suspected existed. Workers in the labor camps revealed themselves as trained soldiers. Children in the education centers overpowered their guards and joined the rebellion. Dr. Li Min's biological weapons had begun their deadly work. Alien soldiers' cybernetic implants, which had made them so efficient, now became their weakness. The weapons targeted the connection between their biological brains and their mechanical enhancements, causing system failures that the aliens could not repair. "They are shutting down," shouted Captain Wang Ho from his position in the Pacific Fleet battle. "Their ships are losing coordination." The alien harvest fleet, which had seemed invincible just hours before, was now struggling to maintain basic formation. Their ships had been designed to work together as a single unit, but when the communication links failed, each vessel became isolated and vulnerable. High Negotiator Velthok watched his perfect plan crumble from his command ship at his 4 eyes, tracked the cascade of failures across every screen in his control room. The humans were not just resisting, they were winning. "Impossible," he whispered. "They were defeated. They submitted to us." But Sung's voice crackled through the communication. "The system as resistance forces stormed alien installations worldwide. We did not submit, we learned. He taught us how to be patient, how to plan, how to strike without mercy. Thank you for the education." The battle raged for 18 hours, but the outcome was clear within the first few minutes. The aliens had built their entire military system around the assumption that their enemies would fight like other organized armies. They had no response to an enemy that fought like a force of nature, chaotic, unpredictable, and utterly relentless. Osung found himself standing in the main control room of the Seoul Command Center, surrounded by the wreckage of alien technology. His team had secured the facility in less than 2 hours. Similar reports were coming in from resistance cells around the globe. "The orbital platforms are falling," reported Lieutenant Park Jun. "The aliens are trying to evacuate, but are captured. Ships are blocking their escape routes." The humans had learned to use the aliens' own vessels against them. The captured ships moved in patterns that confused the alien fleet's targeting systems. They attacked from directions that alien tactical computers had marked as impossible. "Commander." Zekman's final transmission was a plea for mercy. "We surrender. We offer you terms. You can negotiate a peaceful withdrawal." But Osung's response was cold and final. "You had your chance for peace. You chose genocide instead. Now, you will face the consequences of that choice. The last alien stronghold fell as the sun set over the ruins of what had once been humanity's greatest cities. The hegemony forces that had seemed so invincible were now scattered, broken and desperate to escape. High Negotiator Veltek found himself face to face with Osung in the wreckage of his command ship. The alien's once proud bearing had collapsed into something resembling terror. "You are supposed to be grateful," Veltek gasped. "We offered you a place in our order. We gave you purpose, structure, efficiency." Osung looked down at the defeated alien commander. "You offered us slavery. You called it peace. But you planned our extinction. You taught us that mercy is weakness, that power is the only language that matters." Dr. Li Min approached, carrying evidence of the aliens' true plans. "The final harvest was always meant to be our complete elimination. It never intended to honor any agreement." Osung nodded, then looked back at Velthak. "Tell the rest of your hegemony what happened here. Tell them that Earth remembers everything. Tell them that humanity does not forget, and we do not forgive." As the surviving aliens fled Earth in their damaged ships, they carried with them a new understanding. The galaxy had a new power to fear, and it was not seeking membership in the existing order. Humanity was preparing to create its own rules. The war was over. The real reckoning was just beginning.